The 28th of January 2024. I hope the camera's reasonably straight. It's a wee bit twisted, it doesn't matter. You're very welcome back. And I just want to deal with a thing that I think is important to explain my position. I've got a few calls and a few things from people I know about my Mrs. Bucket thing in the gardening. My Mrs. Bucket, or including Mrs. Bucket. I believe the Mrs. Bucket, she was played by Patricia Rutledge, and very well played. That woman's 93 now. It was a hard role to play, but it should be must watch. These episodes should be part of the education system of Britain and Ireland, because there are a lot of Mrs. Buckets. But a lot of people, particularly women, don't like to be told that there are people like that around, and there certainly are on both sides. Now, one of the responses I got from Russian bot, picture and no sound. I love it. I mean there that the television is on, there's picture, but you get no sound from your partner. And the other man here is demo 7562. I married that woman. I went out the gate valve. Where the hell were you when I married her? In other words, why wasn't I about to warn him and all of this? Now, I can give you a few experiences. I know a woman who had a daughter living in Ireland. And they were all right of people, very nice people. I thought they were a wee bit dotty in ways, but they were nice people. And they were connected through family, in-laws, very far out. No relation of mine, but I met them socially and at funerals and things. And she has a daughter anyway. And the daughter decided to go to London just for a holiday or something. Maybe there was some friend. I think she had a friend over their relation. And whatever way she went into a chip shop on the way. I don't think she flew over. I think it was some train business or bus or something. But she went into a chip shop one night at 9 o'clock. And there was a lad in there who was an Arab. Now, obviously, he was an immigrant at some stage. I don't know. But he turned out to be a very radical, Arabian, Muslim, dominating man who just believed women were nothing more than chattels. And if he could have a girlfriend and a baby to a white woman, an Irish or an English woman, that was a big notch in his gun. Anyway, they struck up, they became a couple, she got pregnant, she had a daughter, the daughter was 3-year-old, he decided to impose his will on her. She began to realise this was very unreasonable, the rows were bad, was police out and everything else. And one night he took out a big knife and he stabbed her to death. He stabbed, he stabbed her to death in England. He jumped out and got away, and he was caught by the police, and he was sentenced to a sentence. Now, there's something in my head says there was a 6-year limit, or there was a release thing or something on it. I don't know. But he told her straight, when I get back out, he told the police and the families, I'll kill the baby. For some reason, he wanted the baby dead. I don't know. Don't ask me. And the police could not guarantee beyond a certain time. And he was appealing and appealing and appealing. And as you know, judges have unbelievable sympathy for foreigners like that, just as we know that some judge, somewhere, released the guy that stabbed the woman and the children in Parnell Square in Dublin, and we'll have to try and find out who that judge was. And I think if I can find out, and I'm sure I'll get a call from the guards over this, we'll call to see that judge at his house and see what he has to say. I mean, he damn near resulted in the deaths of 5 people. Now, the thing about it is, anyway, the chap was in jail, and the mother of the child had to get out of the country and go abroad. I won't say where. I don't know, did she get any financial assistance? The country she went to allowed her the passports and all. And she went over there and she worked hard in some kind of a stable or something over there, and worked very hard to keep a few bob together, keep money together. That daughter would now be 20. So I don't know if the father is still out to kill her or not. I don't know where she lives. I don't know anymore. I don't want to know that. But I'm just telling you that. That is a fact. Like it or not. And the big thing at the time was, why are they letting them out so early? I don't know. but the poor mother had to get out of Ireland. That's a fact. Now, the other thing about all this partnerships and things, we have a population crisis. We are not having a proper replacement crisis. Somebody asked me there about abortion. I think there should be a state policy to promote women having babies. And the idea of aborting babies when we need future children is mad. Apart from cruel, it's not right. We need them. So I'd be giving support. First of all, I'd be educating the girls, needless to say, and trying to make sure they don't have unwanted pregnancies, and that if they have relationships, at least there's some boy around the place or some man around. But these things happen, and instead of condemning them, oh, they're boy childs and they're illegitimates and all of that, I think that the child is a child. He could get a job in a factory, working the forklift, or be a teacher. Some of them are very good. I know a girl born in them circumstances who is now a chemist. So I would be trying to keep these babies and rear them. The second point is that I don't know how many marriages are like this, acrimonious. I think it could be about 1 in 8, perhaps. But now it can be both men and women. I worked with a man, and he was scared stiff of the wife, and it must be 10 years since I worked with him. And I met him recently, and she's still ringing him, and he's still scared stiff of her. The Richards in their Mrs. Bucket, Richard Bouquet, or Richard Bucket, as he says, I was always Bucket until I met you, he says to Hyacinth, the wife. Do exist. Now, isn't it funny that among my viewers, and I hadn't that many views to date, I'll just check it here, there is one, Damo, and that's 1 out of 220 viewers, but that's possibly a lot more. In any event, I know another case, and you'll get this in Irish families. I know 2 Irish families where the people themselves, nor the children, will marry Irish or British people or Americans. They'll only marry exotic people. Mostly, well, they don't all have to be Muslims. They could be Lisbon, they could be Portugal, they could be Latvian, they could be Russians, they could be whatever. And very few actually marry black people from Africa. I don't know why, but they're from abroad anyway. And if they're Muslims, the women seem to be attracted to them no end. I know a woman married 2 of them, all ending in grief, abuse, drug dealing, and stuff totally alien to the way the woman was brought up. In fact, I think she married again, and I think that went the same way. And she had 3. Now, of course, they were all very active. They were all trying to get into business and trying to this and that, but it ended in a sort of grief. But there are children, so who's to say right or wrong? And they're all doing very well. So that's the thing. But if it can be men or women, either way. Now, does any woman want her son, herself or her son, to marry, herself or her daughter to marry a dire alcoholic on Stephen's Day, on Easter Monday, when they're expected to go to the races? He's a comatose drunk. She can't go out with him, but he's sleeping on a sofa in the foyer in the hotel. Who the hell wants that? What is wrong? If it's a bad disease, that is a bigger disease than heart condition or cancer, and it is more destructive. Who wants a gambler? Who wants a fella that spends everything on gambling? All gone on gambling. You can't keep him with a bob in his pocket. Who the hell wants that? Are you telling me they don't exist? If you have 2 boys and a girl, a daughter, and the youngest boy marries one of them, the daughter marries a man like that, does that not impact you? I know another case where another family wouldn't have anything to do with Irish people, and one of the lads, the sons, I think there's 4 sons in it. There's 4 sons and a daughter, I think, but one of the sons anyway is married to a foreign lassie from Eastern Europe, and doesn't want the mother, children on the job, doesn't want the parents around, telling the parents don't come in to visit us, and all this crazy stuff. I was at a wedding a while back, it's about 8 years ago, and the groom's father, the groom's mother, I think he was adopted, was a head case. She was Mrs. Bucket big time. Mad. A crazy woman. Oh, I want this, and oh, we'll have this, oh, we'll have the other, oh, we'll have the other. Who wants that? And I made the point about the gardening. If these ones want nice gardens and nice houses, go out and do it yourself. You see, what they do is, Richard put in the garden. Richard puts in the garden the first year. Oh, it's just great. She's down there at the hairdressers and she's in company. We have fresh vegetables. I got Richard to do it. This is what the one was saying in the gardening centre up in Meath, showing how all she bullied the husband into doing all these things, and when he had it done, she got him to change it. But she goes away with him anyway, and when she comes back, the slugs are gone mad on the plotted cabbage. You should have known it. You should have had that done. You should have looked about that. This is your fault. And the next year, if he goes down and puts down pellets, or he puts something around, or sheep's wool or whatever, and if he goes round to stop it, not an easy job putting sheep's wool in wet weather round a plotted cabbage. But if he does that, she'll say, I want that room painted. And when he's out stopping the slugs, she'll nail him for not painting the room. He cannot win. Now, there are other things I'd have liked to cover in this. There are obsessive behaviours. Excessive drinking by men and women is an obsessive behaviour. Excessive gambling is an obsessive disorder. What do they call it? OBD, is it? It's an obsessive disorder, anyway. Obsessive anything is a disorder. Maybe I'm a bit into making things and I love making little models and things. Maybe that's a slight disorder, but it doesn't affect anyone because I'm out in the garage, I'm doing no harm or whatever. And even I have green fingers, if I try to grow something, it's for my own fun. Of course, throughout my married life, I had to do things and make sure things is done right, and no problems there. I tried to fix a tap. If the tap is broken, I fix the tap. You'd get a woman where the tap is broken would say to the husband, I want a new bath. Mrs. Bucket is always extravagant buying. Oh, I want a new bath, and I want a Romanesque type of bath and all this. And he has to go off and spend 1,500 on her. The amount of men who are broke, wealthy men, who are rendered poverty-stricken by the demands of these type of women is legion. Now, of course, there are women who work, good women, they're nurses, they're teachers, or they have a business, and they're keeping the husband. And I know that happens as well. Usually the husband keeps quiet and he lives away like that. Sometimes he could be into some big scheme. Oh, we'll do something. We'll do a big solar farm. We'll do something. And he gets her money and he plows it in, and the next thing, the whole thing goes bottom up. It's all a disaster. You can't get away. The best family is the nuclear family, the man-woman relationship and the children born thereof. And it's a beautiful thing to see that type of relationship flourish. Generally speaking, Christian religions seem to promote that a bit, and I think some of the Islam religions a bit as well. I won't go there. But how am I to apologise or complain? What is the name of my channel? Isn't the word real there at the top? The word real there at the top. And jokingly, down when I'm mixing with people all over the place, what are you up to now? I'm doing a survey. What are you doing the survey on, Val? Couples that's not speaking to each other. What? How do you know? I have a way of detecting it. I have a detector. Huh? How are you going to do it? I'm going to publish it. You can't do that! Of course I wouldn't do that, of course, and I could be wrong. But there are a lot of houses in this country, in Ireland and in Britain, where that's happening. And we went, not the honeymoon, we were married over 2 years, went to Scotland, and we booked into a lovely couple up in Aberdeenshire. And it was a lovely bed and breakfast, and we stayed in it 3 days, and the mother told us what happened to her children. Every one of them married bad. And the abuse one of our sons was getting from a woman was unbelievable. And I know another person, Irish roots, married and had 2 nice daughters. They look nice daughters to me. They're a nice couple, and the 2 marriages lasted 6 months. So this thing about choosing a partner is as difficult as choosing a solicitor. It took me 12 years to find a lawyer, one lawyer capable of dealing with the windmills and other things. Most of them are not up to the job or are corrupt, and it can take you longer to find a partner. I might try and give some of the pointers. I do say that if a woman is out with a fella, don't stop and drink it when you're out with him. Drink away and see what he does. If he takes 2 or 3 pints and goes home, that's all right. If he's quiet or she says something to him and he says, "Hey, you're wrong there, I don't agree." But if she says to him when he has a few pints, you shouldn't do that. You mind your own business. Don't bloody teach to me. Once you hear that, you should have a warning sign. You have a red light on straight away. The same if your girlfriend is building castles in the sky. Oh, I'd like to have this and I'd like to have that. Basically, she might say, I'd like to have a home. I'd like to have a nice little comfortable home and all of that. That's all right. But if she wants all these things, there may be pointers there. Then on the other point, there's the point that sometimes women won't get men, only lads that has problems. And it's either that or no man at all and no children. Well, that's a calculated risk you take. Divorce is an extremely expensive racket. John McWhirter, remember the Tic Tac man, he used to be on the races. He said that the partner, they have money, if there's an unequal income, it should be 1% per year for 50 years and no more than 50%. In other words, if the marriage lasted 45 years, the partner should get 45% of the other person's assets. Man or woman, I'm not going there in that at the moment. But 50 years of misery, like Richard O'Kay, is no joke. 50 years of being a parent with a son being treated like that and having the poor chap come to you lamenting what's happening, and he doesn't want to split up because there's kids. Look what Sinead O'Connor did when her son died. Look at the grief she experienced. She loved the wee lad dearly, and look at how it impacted her. Right, death is the final straw, and I've stood with mothers and parents at the graves of their young children killed in accidents and all that. But this type of permanent torture, and just before I go, this type of permanent torture is a long form of torture and death. One thing, you will not change these people in no way. And I have got several victims to admit to me that they thought they'd change him. I was getting married to him, I thought I'd bring him round, but I was wrong. You will not change these crowd. They're either bullies, they're mad, they have delusions of grandeur or whatever they have. They're serious alcoholics, they're selfish, they're drinking, they're doing this and doing that. Whatever they're doing, your best attitude is they're not going to change. So if you marry them or you become permanently attached to them, that's something you have to deal with. There has to be a very good reason for doing it. That is not a general picture. I have no doubt, and I know so many couples, I could name them, who are getting on the best. You'll know when you go into the house, they'll be well, you have a cup of tea there, what's the hey Johnny, did you do that there? Did I get a letter? You know if there's a good flow of cordial goings on. And it's not easy rearing a family and young women getting pregnant and giving birth. It's all quite hard work, and the whole thing is hard work. But that's the thing. And then sometimes women have to mind other persons. I know of a case where an old lady had a husband and a couple in the house, and she was cooking, and his brother came in and lived with them, and he had land, and he left a farm to one of the daughters, his nieces, and she says to the old woman, to her mother, "You haven't one man to mind, you have two." And he took offence, the other fella that moved in, and he changed his will. So this is part of life and everything else, but you can do without it. And there is another thing: constant Saturday evening soccer matches, night, noon, and morning. Wigan versus South Ham or something, or Wigan versus Coventry, and the whole thing is there the whole day. I couldn't do it. There's nothing wrong with looking at a big match, big league matches. A lot of people in my circle do the same. That's all right, but there's a limit to it. You're better out and about doing something, and if you had a wee plot or a few window boxes, you're better out doing something like that. But some people are not handy, some people are no good at that type of thing, and that's all right. I happen to be very handy, so it's easy for me to talk. That type of thing. So you can have obsession. The other thing is, a lot of women look at crap on the telly. I'll cook the one egg every day. And old fat idiots of Yankee lads with white hair going running around about burgers and committing the sin of gluttony, and this is on the telly night, noon, and morning. That's not healthy, and that can be an obsessive disorder as well. I think I've put my finger on it fairly well. The sad part is, an awful lot of girls and an awful lot of young men will not form relationships, and they tell me that themselves privately. You have a chat with them, whether it's down at the pub or some other way. I always bring round the chat. Sure, you couldn't get married now. Sure, she'd take the whole place off you. Sure, you don't know what you're getting. You don't know who you go up there with. And then an awful lot of children that are the product of these type of Mrs. Bucket relationships, they'll not get married at all. They've seen this all their life. By Jesus, I'm not getting into that. And that's the harsh reality. If I could sort out and judge the ones and exclude that at least 1 in 8, if I could get them out and let them hump off over there and nobody wanted to do with them, and let the men do the same, let them hump off. And you rarely get the two coming together. You rarely get the women over here that are obsessive dysfunctionals, Mrs. Buckets, marrying the alcoholic gambler here. They seem to be able to select the partners that will let them ply their madness. It rarely happens that the two marry, and that itself is a very important observation, very important. So if you have a daughter and she's a really good lassie, the chances are every wrong lad in the country would like to have her for his wife, so he can have her cooking for him, looking after him, taking his orders, doing what he says, and all of that, and she just be a little housekeeper and all of that. You know, on the other hand, the Mrs. Bucket types and all these bullying ones see a decent fellow, well reared, good chap, good worker, and everything else, and she says, he's the lad I can play on. I'll get him, and he won't go. He's put up with this abuse, so he's a target. So there's a trick in that. Folks, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I'd love to be nice to you all and all that, but that's not my sortie. This is real, true education, not fake news after all. Comment underneath. I already know a lot of people have identified precisely what I'm saying, and that's good. But that's the real world, and we live in the real world. And as far as I'm concerned, I handle the real world as the real world, not any delusions or anything else. I go out every day and I see that world and I say, I'll get through that day and I'll do it with style. And unless you take that attitude, unless you take Murphy's Law, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong, then you're going to experience it the hard way. Good luck. Thank you very much. We'll see you back.